Talk about the difference in collecting data. There are three main ways we collect data: surveys, observational studies, and experiments. So with surveys, in a survey, investigators obtain data from a subset of a population in order to estimate population attributes. Results can be generalized to the population of interest. So for example, I wrote over here on the right, does the color of a basketball influence the number of times a shooter sinks a basket? A random group of students is chosen and asked to shoot a series of baskets using a regulation, normal colored basketball. The data is recorded. The same group is then given blue colored basketball and the same number of shots is repeated. The data is again recorded. A statistical analysis is performed. So a survey is just watching to see and recording data to see if a difference would be made over something like the color of a basketball. So you've also had surveys done frequently with you guys as students in various ways, so you kind of know what a survey is more than the others. So let's look at observational study versus experiment. In an observational study, investigators observe subjects and measure variables of interest without assigning treatments to the subject. That is important. Without assigning treatments. So the treatment that each subject receives is determined beyond the control of the investigator. A great example is over here on the right. Find 100 women aged 30, of which 50 have been smoking a pack a day for 10 years, while the other 50 have been smoke-free for 10 years. Measure lung capacity for each of the 100 women. Analyze, interpret, and draw conclusions from the data. So notice that they have been smoking on their own, that no one made them do that. That would be an observational study that you gathered up these 100 women who have been doing this, and you are observing, like, now what is their lung capacity. So let's add over here, no treatment imposed for observational studies. That's a big thing, is you're looking at stuff that has already happened and analyzing it. For an experiment, that difference here is a treatment is imposed. So treatment applied or imposed on the subjects. In an experiment, investigators apply treatments to experimental units, which are people, animals, plots of land, etc., and then proceed to observe the effect of the treatments on the experimental units. So, in a randomized experiment, investigators control the assignment of treatments to experimental units using a chance mechanism like the flip of a coin or a computer's random number generator. So, the example here is sort of similar to the one above there on purpose, so you can tell the difference between them. Even though this might sound ridiculous, this would be an experiment. It says, find 100 women aged 20 who do not currently smoke. Randomly assign 50 of the 100 women to the smoking treatment and the other 50 to the no smoking treatment. Those in the smoking group smoke a pack a day for 10 years, while those in the control group remain smoke-free for 10 years. And then measure the lung capacity of each of the 100 women, analyze, interpret, and draw conclusions from the data. So an experiment would be to tell 50 of them to smoke a pack a day, and they would have to go do that. And then the other 50 do not smoke anything for 10 years, and they would have to do that. So a treatment is imposed, no matter how ridiculous that might sound. But that's the difference between observational study and experiment. Let's just look at these three examples again to pick out which one is it describing. 50 people with clinical depression were divided into two groups. Over a 6-month period, one group was given a traditional treatment. Given a traditional treatment for depression, while the other group was given a new drug. The people were evaluated at the end of the period to determine whether their depression had improved. So this is definitely an experiment because treatment was provided or imposed. The second one says to determine whether or not apples really do keep the doctor away. 40 patients at a doctor's office were asked to report how often they came to the doctor and the number of apples they had eaten recently. So that would be an observational study because they were not asked to do anything other than what they had already done, and then they were going to just draw conclusions from that. So the people had already eaten the apples and already gone to the doctor. There was no treatment imposed. Number 3 says, to determine whether music really helps students test scores, a teacher who taught 2 U.S. history classes played classical music during testing for one class and played no music during testing for the other class. So this would be an experiment because treatment in this case is the music, and that was imposed on the students. Okay, so let's look at bias in our next video.